All right, guys, so we are live, and please welcome Pat. She is President and CEO of Suneva Medical. It's an honor to have you on the podcast, so thank you for joining us.
Truly my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
To start off, we're just going to do a couple minutes of just grounding, centering, and just having our intention set for this beautiful hour. Really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to meet. And really, honestly, the whole reason why we're here is to connect and share with others in a way that we may not be able to otherwise connect, and really in a deeper level to really foster deeper levels of growth, connection, and understanding and compassion and love for skincare.
Absolutely.
So, all right, for all of our glow getters that are listening, so if all of you can just, whatever you're doing, whether you're driving, you're walking, just take a deep inhale in and just let it out. And just, I want you to bring to mind something that you're grateful for. It could be anything out of your day. I'm grateful to just have really strong, powerful women in my life, and to start to really step into the role of leadership in a deeper way. So, Pat, I invite you to state your intention and maybe what you're grateful for as well.
I am grateful for the people in my life and for my extended family, which is my customers and my Suniva family, because
I love that.
they've done amazing things together, and I think that's, for us, a great opportunity.
I love that. I love that. Thank you. All right. So we have so many questions to ask you, but to start, why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about your background, and would love to know about your childhood and, what brought you into aesthetics? So you can start with any one of those three.
All right. Well, just by way of background, I was born and raised in the Northeast of the United States. I came from an immigrant family. My father was Greek and my mother was French, and we grew up learning multiple languages at the dinner table. And I had the opportunity, because my dad got tired of very cold weather. He moved us to California when I was but a little girl, at 10. And we moved across the country. And I'll be honest, I'm also oddly very grateful for that.
Mm-hmm.
I learned that everyone in the United States was not the way I saw them, that we were all different, and that depending upon where you were in the country, there would be different experiences that you would have. And to go from the Northeast to the West Coast was quite a culture shock for me. But I have to admit, I am really grateful, because it's made me very open-minded in life, and it provided a really interesting foundation for me to really understand. One of the nicest compliments anyone ever paid me was when I was living in Europe for a company that I worked for, and they said, "You don't act like an American." What does an American act like?
Right.
And it was really funny, because they said, "Well, you understand that every country in Europe is very different." And I said, "Well, that's because every state in the United States is very different."
Yes.
And it's not just the physical environment, but it's the way people are raised and the way they're taught. So to me, it was such a great experience at such a young age to open my heart and my mind to the great differences. And what a wonderful opportunity then to learn and to be open to the fact that people are different.
Yeah, that's very true. And I think having, especially living overseas, right? And then that gives you a lot deeper, yeah, just deeper awareness, understanding of people and our needs.
Absolutely. No, and then unfortunately, much to my surprise, 10 years later, I lost my mother. And then 2 years and a week later, I lost my father. And it was one of those lessons that made you realize you had to grow up,
Mm-hmm. Wow.
and that
Wow.
you needed to rely on everything they'd given you
Mm-hmm.
has an inner strength and the ability to navigate the future and to have all the confidence that they gave you in you
Mm-hmm.
to create the life that they'd want you to have.
I love that. So what would you tell yourself if you saw yourself at that point? Is there anything specifically you would tell that younger version of yourself?
Something my mother used to tell me. She used to say, "You can do anything in the world you want.
Love that.
Trust yourself."
Yes,
Those were the
that's true.
kindest words she ever shared with me.
Yeah, and I think it's very hard to actually live those words on a daily basis.
Indeed.
Yes, yeah, no, that's true. So you started in the aesthetic industry in 1981 with Mentor. So what brought you into starting, a small company and growing it to an incredible, um, an incredible product? And what gave you that strength and tenacity for that?
Well, I think I am grateful to people who are my coaches. Over my lifetime, I have been gifted by having some really amazing role models and
Mm-hmm.
some truly amazing people who allowed me to try
Mm-hmm.
things that I never might have tried. And it was a
Mm-hmm.
great gift because,
Can you give me examples of
sure,
things that you tried?
I will never, I always laugh about this one because my husband always laughs. I had an opportunity to go to the Netherlands and live there for 14 months to help do a
Wow.
turnaround. My husband asked me one day, many months after I had come back, and he said, "What made you think you could do it?"
Wow.
And my only comment was, "I never let myself believe I couldn't."
Hmm. Wow.
And and what a huge opportunity to be able
Yeah.
to turn a company around and do the things that you hoped worked. You hit a lot of levers in your day when you're running a business. You know this. In
Hmm.
your business, you can't be 100% certain that they're always the right thing to do in your
Right.
conscience, and you ask for sort of divine intervention on, is this right? Am I going the right
Hmm.
direction? But the reality is you have to try many different things. Don't you?
Yes. Yeah, and I find that that's challenging when the people around you may not see that vision, or it looks like you're just throwing all these things up in the air hoping for something to stick, but there's some strategy that comes with that.
Well, and it's funny. I've always taken the posture, and I really do believe it has helped. I always go into meetings like that when I'm going to brainstorm with the team, saying,
Hmm.
by no means am I the smartest person in the room, but
Yeah.
collectively, what we are going to build is something great.
Yes. Yeah.
And then everybody wants to be a part of the solution, as opposed to, you may have a foundational idea or two or three foundational ideas, and then people can add on it. And it makes the
Hmm.
original concept good, but it's better when everybody has contributed their thinking.
Yes. Yeah. It's as if instead of you taking full ownership, everyone else has contributed, right? Their thoughts, their energy, their emotions, and it gives you a sense of responsibility and ownership.
I agree. And I think that, as much as we all think we're pretty good at what we do, the reality is we by
Mhm.
no means are the best.
No, we're
Right?
not.
We came into this world imperfect. We will leave imperfect. But the journey along the way is to really witness what it takes to build your success, but you can't do it by yourself. It takes a
Mm.
village to make businesses work.
Yeah, that's, I think, and also vulnerability with that, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's funny. Yes, there is vulnerability, but I think it's great when people are capable of doing that, right?
Mm.
Because
Hmm.
you actually grow more
Hmm.
from it than if you thought you had to have all the answers.
Yeah, and I think I really like that. And I think it also takes pressure off yourself, right? That it's not all on you.
Correct. Yeah,
Yeah,
which is
I
a
love
good
that.
thing.
Yeah,
And then
I love
you
that.
get much deeper buy-in.
Yeah, exactly. That's very true. So tell me, at least, over the last several years, being in aesthetics for several decades, what are some of the big changes, maybe differences and similarities from 30 plus years to now that you see? What's the same and what's different?
Well, it's really funny because I actually think that the biggest change has been the participation of people at much younger ages in
Hmm.
getting involved in aesthetics. And the other thing that I love is that men are getting more and more involved.
Yep.
And
Yep.
I am a fan of aesthetics on multiple levels, but the reason is because it makes people feel great about themselves.
Yes.
And when you
Yeah.
feel good about yourself, you actually do better work.
Absolutely. Yeah. When you look better, you feel better, you do better
A hundred
because you are better.
Absolutely. And you can make the assumption that it's inside out. Yes, that's true. But the reality is, when you look in the mirror, it
Hmm.
frames who you are and what you're going to do, right?
Hmm.
So
Yeah, absolutely.
I've watched I've watched caterpillars become butterflies in my career,
Hmm.
and it's
Wow.
so much fun to see that glorious glow when
Yeah.
people, you see it in your practice.
Yeah. Yeah. Someone comes in, and yeah, and when you're like, they place their trust in you, and whether it's within that end of that patient encounter, or it takes a couple months, they're seeing those changes. It is, they light up, and they're no longer afraid when they go out in public. They have confidence, and I think that's why we're here.
I
That's
agree.
why we're
I
here.
agree. And think, I one of the other categories where I've spent sizable amounts of times is in the is acne.
Hmm. Hmm.
And certainly, you would watch these lovely children come in horribly hiding their face because of their acne, and they got treated. And my goodness, do you know what a great joy it was for these little gals to come in with these adorable high ponytails and all their hair off their face because they were
Hmm.
so pleased? I think
Yes.
that to me is the caterpillar to the butterfly.
And I love that. And I love that. And I think, that's why I think sometimes, often, not as much anymore, but sometimes, there is a little bit of taboo or embarrassment, shame that some people hold when they think about getting treatments. And, I always compare it to, well, when we go to the gym and we work out, but no one judges us for that. So it's the same thing, coming back to what doing things that make you feel better, and doing it from a place of intrinsically truly wanting to feel your best and look your best. And there's nothing wrong with that. And that should be celebrated.
I agree. I I think some people, especially when they're parents and spouses, there's the should I really be spending on me? Right?
Hmm.
And I
Hmm.
think that's where people really struggle. But the reality is, you are your best investment.
Yes. Yes. So what can you share maybe for some of our glow getters that are, with all your years of knowing how we as consumers think and feel and how we act, whether we're first timers or we come in very routinely. What is something that you could state to one of our glow getters listening who is thinking about something, but not quite sure if it's for them or if they're ready for it?
I think that's a really great question. And it's everybody's so different. But I
Mm-hmm.
would generally say, typically, if it's something that bothers you
Mm-hmm.
and it really does eat at you, then you should be confident to make the change.
Yeah.
But I think
Yes.
that's true in all aspects of life, whether it's aesthetics or whether it's life or
Mm-hmm.
friendships.
Yes.
People that tend to drain friends of their energy are,
Mm-hmm.
making decisions to change is not bad.
It's challenging. It's challenging to do something that's scary and unknown or different. But I love that, and I think that's typically what I state with patients. I'm like, well, honestly, if it bothers you, then it's worth considering the options for it.
Yes.
And maybe you decide against it now, but these are the things that you could do. And 9 times out of 10, they're like, wow, I had no idea.
Well, and I think that's the great thing, right? They need to
Mm-hmm.
become educated
Yes.
the
Yes.
variety of options of ways
Mm-hmm.
of treating X, whatever X is. But then once they've done that, now they have an opportunity to really fully make the
Mm-hmm.
best educated decision for themselves. And
Yes.
then it makes the decision easier, I think. Given
I agree.
that education is power. So the more they educate themselves, the better it's going to be. And
That's
honestly,
true.
I don't actually, I've always been intrigued over the years to really appreciate the fact that people don't actually know all of their options.
No, no,
And
that's true.
and where do you go? So I think
Mm-hmm.
that multiple aspects of this play a very big part. One is knowing that you go to a trusted resource.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And a trusted resource, normally is going to be a physician that you've gotten a referral to.
Mm-hmm.
And then that builds your confidence to say, oh, well, somebody also had this done. Now, what my friend needed may not be what I need. But
Mm-hmm.
if I go to a trusted provider, it's
Mm-hmm.
going to provide me the opportunity to become best educated for what's right for me.
Yeah.
So I think education is really essential and a trusted resource.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. So tell me a little bit about what are a couple challenges or big lessons that you've had to navigate, as you can draw on your prior years. But what are some of the big challenges or lessons that you faced in being in leadership and being a female?
Being in leadership first, I would say COVID was probably one of the most interesting challenges I've ever encountered.
Mm-hmm.
We had 110 employees,
Mm-hmm.
and my commitment was to find the path to ensure that everybody stayed in the team.
Mm-hmm.
And that was probably one of the most remarkable challenges I've ever had in my
Yeah.
career. And honestly, uh, it's funny. As a woman, I mean, I hate to say this because I know this sounds sort of odd, but I don't actually, I mean, yes, I am a woman.
Mm-hmm.
And I grew up in an era where the opportunities were not as amazing as they are today.
Mm-hmm.
But I have to admit, I've never really focused on the fact that I'm a woman.
Yeah. And why do you think that is?
Partly because, I'll say this, the reality is, I think oftentimes, especially in my era, you were
Mm-hmm.
really raised and taught professionally by the majority of men.
Yeah.
And so you learn to not think of yourself as different
Mm-hmm.
than they.
Yeah.
And I, was open to coaching, and I was open to learning, and I wanted to appreciate all of their life experiences. And if you think about it, back in those days, they were the people who had most of the experiences.
Mhm. Yeah.
So, I still have, there were two women in my career early on that were major influencers in my
Mhm.
life.
And what specifically, like, how did they, yeah, how did they influence you in a dramatic way that
Um,
shifted the timeline of,
yeah,
yeah.
it was really funny. But one of my first female bosses, um, I was definitely raised a workaholic, so I can clearly, I, I can clearly own that. Um, but I will say, she used to make me laugh. She'd leave at night and she'd say, that stuff's still going to be on your desk tomorrow morning. And I used to think, well, of course it is, but I can get it done tonight. It won't be here tomorrow morning. But it was really interesting because she was probably one of the first people to actually help me try to pace myself.
Mm.
And at a young age, that was probably helpful.
Mhm.
And the other woman, she was an amazing coach. She
Mhm.
helped me see my career path and to really inspire me
Mhm.
to be the kind of leader she was, which
Mhm.
was gracious and kind and supportive.
Mhm.
And that just sort of framed who I ultimately, I think, became.
I love that. I love that. So when you were starting out, did you know where you wanted to be?
Not at all. If I had somebody say to me, "Where do you want to be?" I'm not sure. I would have said where I'm standing today. but but I can be honest, I am amazingly fulfilled
Mhm.
in life. And I am genuinely grateful for every opportunity I have been given.
Mhm.
So, but I also think it speaks to the way the world moves.
Mhm.
You know,
Can you share more about that?
yeah, I mean, I think if you think about the fact that, back when I was younger,
Mhm.
you, the choices were smaller. I mean, I actually started my career in human resources,
Okay.
and it taught me a tremendous amount. I am really grateful. So every part of my journey was a building block. I don't think
Mhm.
I had an appreciation that it was a building block at the time,
Right?
because I think that's just the way the world works. But it was
Mhm.
a tremendous opportunity to polish and strengthen skills and to become more mindful of what I needed to do in each role that I needed to do. Each role prepared me for the next role.
Mhm. Yeah.
So I do think it's interesting when I think back to, you know, what I've done and how I've gotten to where I am. It's hard work is never to be undersold, because that really does play a big
Yeah.
part of it. And to demonstrate that you are the kind of person that they can trust,
Mm.
and that you have the best interest of
Mhm.
of the business and the
Mhm.
best interest of the, if you will, the products, the customers. And I think when you can demonstrate that, it really builds confidence in the people that are around you
Yeah.
to trust you to take on more things.
Yeah. I love that. I mean, but I find it's challenging, right, when you're starting to fully believe that and live that.
I would agree. I would, if you had had this conversation with me 40 years ago, I'm sure I wouldn't be saying any of this.
Yeah. What would you be saying 40 years?
Right? I, you think about it, but part of it is, I think it always goes back to, We aren't born perfect, we don't leave perfect, but the journey along the way should be teaching us not just how to do a job or to carry a task or to be a leader, but it's
Hmm.
really how to become the person you want to become.
Yeah. Yeah. That's very true.
That's the
Yeah.
journey.
That is very true. Yeah. No, I love that. I love that. So tell me, shifting from, working within, bigger corporate, like with Mertz and with Zeltique, and shifting to Suniva, a much smaller company. What was your, well, what your reason for that, or what pulled you in that direction and pushed you away from what you were doing?
Well, I am a small company type person to start with.
Mm-hmm.
I do have a tendency to gravitate to those because
Mm-hmm.
when I was at Bioform, which then became Mertz, we were little. We were about
Mm-hmm.
$35 million. So we were
Mm-hmm.
tiny. And then we built it and it did really well. And then
Mm-hmm.
you move on and you do it again because it's what you
Yeah.
love. And with Suniva, what I found was sort of the magic of a really remarkable product
Mm-hmm.
and a really great team
Mm-hmm.
and an opportunity to bring some of the things I've learned at my
Mm-hmm.
other positions to help this little company get where it needed to be and wanted to be.
Yeah.
And I'm so proud of the people in this organization. I really am.
Yeah. No, I love that. I love that. And I think part of it too is, we're a small practice, and I think there's definitely a bigger field, or a feeling that's different when you're part. I worked with a larger practice my first year, and before that, training in academics, you in the academic world is very different. And it's nice to have a small group of team that you love, everyone, they become your work family, and we answer to ourselves, right? And I think there's more responsibility that comes with that, but also a greater sense of uh, of satisfaction.
And accomplishment. I agree. Because it gives you can control your destiny that way.
Mm-hmm.
Can't
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah.
no one's
Best. I think right now with the times we're in, I feel like our kite has kind of flowing. Where, but we can ground even better.
I agree. I will agree with you. It has been an interesting list of challenges. Think about it. Right. Had you not had the experiences, if you think about yourself personally, had you not
Mm-hmm.
had the experiences of working for a larger business and
Mm-hmm.
being at an institution and really an
Mm-hmm.
academic institution, that's so much of the background for you,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
To build the
Yes.
confidence to make the
Yes.
move into a very brave and bold and exciting opportunity to have your own
Yeah.
practice.
Yes, I think, it's similar to what you're saying. Each thing gives, you learn skills, and it's a role that you're playing. And I think the same thing that you said, what type of person, do you want to be? And I think when I think of myself before and even now and in the future, I'm like, well, what is that person like? And am I that person? And what do I need to release, or what needs to evolve, or what skills do I need to acquire in order to step into that? Um, and that I find is a uh, more fun way of going through life, especially professionally, than holding yourself up to really very tangible monetary things.
I agree. It's funny. I've always had that debate. You know, I mean, it's not to say that money's not important, but there's more to life than
Yes,
just
yes,
that.
yes, yeah,
And
yeah. I find it's a form of energy. It's a form of energy, and we can use it, in a very beautiful way. But it's all flow.
I agree. Because you're right, though. I mean, I've always believed that if you put your mind to things and learn the skills you need, the money comes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It doesn't
Yeah, I
have
love
to
that.
be a primary focus.
Yes. I said focus on finding joy in your day to day.
Amen. Absolutely right. I agree.
So, okay. So, next question I have for you is what would you say were your biggest lessons or take homes from working or with the launch and selling of Zeltique with Cool Sculpting?
Huh.
What was your mission with that?
Well, my primary mission was to help create an infrastructure of how the practice development managers helped our practices. I
Mm,
think you and I've
okay.
talked in the past. One of my greatest practice, or one of my greatest passions, is practice development,
Yeah.
and really
Yeah.
helping our practices be the best that they can be.
Hmm.
And you know, in medical school, oftentimes people get out and they
Hmm.
have never run a business
Right.
and they understand their craft.
Hmm.
So I've always found great passion in working with practices on how to really help them. So the 5 steps to cool sculpting success was really a manifestation of trying to give the reps the tools that they needed to be able to
Mm,
officially help the practices grow.
yeah.
And
Wow.
that to me was really the most rewarding.
How did you come up with the steps?
Well, we just thought through, for me, it was, I wanted a sequence because I have this weird process mind, which is I kept thinking, okay, what are we really trying to do? Well, a
Hmm.
physician can't be great and offer a service unless they're really clinically proficient.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, clinical proficiency was a really critical step. Also, I realized after spending, I don't know, maybe 6 months in the field with the reps, that the other place where our practices were struggling is there was no one on the staff that had been treated either at all or to
Mm,
completion.
okay.
So,
Okay.
ensuring that people on the staff had products, believed in the service, and
Hmm.
we, companies, could create a brand advocate within the
Mm,
practice. And the
gotcha.
third step for me was once you had a brand advocate who believed
Hmm.
in the product and understood the way the product worked for the doctor and for them, then it made it easier to sit down and teach them. Then, when a phone rings or an email comes into the practice, what do you need to do?
Hmm.
How do you take that phone call or the engagement and help that patient come in and learn more about the practice?
Hmm.
And to really become um, a real part of the practice.
Hmm.
And how did you make them feel wanted and
Hmm.
appreciated? And to me, that's always been an interesting twist in medicine is you can screen people up
Hmm.
front and not have them come in, but then they never come to your practice and know how wonderful you are. And they
Hmm.
never have a chance to meet you as a
Hmm.
human being and engage.
Hmm.
So
Right.
getting people in the practice is essential to a physician's
Mm,
success. And then, of course, helping a patient to make the right decision, as you asked earlier, how do you
hmm.
help a patient make that right decision as
Yeah.
to whether this treatment is right or not right for them?
Right.
Because it
Right.
doesn't matter
Yeah.
if they're not the right patient for this procedure, you certainly want them to know the practice because there's a high probability that they may do other things.
Yeah, yeah, that's very true. And I think part of it is, yeah, telling a patient when this isn't the best option and instead tell them what, if usually there is something we can offer, but even to the point where if I feel it is surgery, where we tell them, surgery is your best option. And unless they're like, I don't want surgery, then I say, okay, then you're at the right place for me to really tell you
That,
what your options are.
that's
Yeah.
exactly right. And I do think that that's a big piece of this is that
Hmm.
in the whole part of the process of those steps was to really walk our customers through and to become true partners to them
Hmm.
of
Hmm.
what those steps really meant to
Mm-hmm.
help them effectively grow their business.
Right. Right. Yeah. No, I love that. So what are things that you find, for within like the practice management side? Other so once okay, either okay, the initial meeting of a patient engagement, getting them in the door, meeting, um, to retention.
Well, there are lots of little tricks for that. Part of it is retention happens when patients are happy with their clinical outcomes,
Mm,
first and foremost.
mhm,
When you create a happy patient because they felt that they got the true value of
mhm,
what they wanted, then
mhm,
all of a sudden you've got a patient for life.
mhm,
But I also think that, an important part of what I've learned over my career is that it isn't always about that single patient, but when that patient
mhm,
is joyful about
mhm,
what's happened, it also, they become a great referrer to your
mhm.
practice.
Yeah.
And that becomes your, what I will call the best source of leads
Mm,
are people
yeah.
who genuinely love what you did.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
that's the best. You look at all these very creative and expensive ways to grow a practice, and I
Mhm.
always think, well, the reality is the best way to grow a practice is make patients happy.
Yeah, that's true.
Right?
That is very true.
You create the right environment when they come through the door. You make sure that they feel welcome, that they
Mhm,
are really a part of your family, an extension
mhm.
of your practice, and then they get an amazing result.
Yeah, yeah, that's very true.
You you create retention.
That is very true. So let's draw a parallel towards the management side of that with leading a business. So how do you work on, or what are things within team retention
Mhm.
and having happy, joyful, proactive team?
I think that's a great question, because I think that is the crux of it, isn't it? Retention is a
Mm-hmm.
very important part. I think it's a couple things. One, I think it's a matter of everybody feeling self worth, a
Mm-hmm.
part of the process, especially in
Mm-hmm.
a practice, right?
Mm-hmm.
In a
Mm-hmm.
medical practice, you have a handful of people doing a lot of work,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and everybody has to help pull on the right end of the rope.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what you find is one, they have to feel appreciated.
Mm-hmm.
Two, they have to feel listened to.
Mm-hmm.
Three, they have to feel like they're part of the process.
Mm-hmm.
When people feel
Mm-hmm.
like they sit outside of the process,
Mm-hmm.
oftentimes they don't feel connected.
Okay. Yeah.
Hence the reason you go into meetings and, in my mind, you say,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not the smartest person in the room,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
collectively we're going to work on an idea that's going to be sensational.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I love that. I love that. Um, so tell me what are some of the other bigger differences between a larger corporate practice, or like a corporate, leading from a corporate sense, within like a large business, to leading with a smaller business.
Well, it's a great question. And I actually think part of it is the bigger the company gets, the less
Mm-hmm.
direct impact you have with people. And
Mm,
that means that the leaders at each level have
mm-hmm.
to maintain the same cultural behavior as it is at the top.
And that often gets lost.
It's
Yeah.
harder. I have always said, I've always believed, although I haven't been able to prove it out just yet in my life, um,
Mm-hmm.
I've always thought you can get really big and still be a family.
Mm-hmm.
But there are facts that the bigger that a company gets, the less direct imprinting people have from the top down. So it really is a matter of ensuring that the people at all management levels hear, feel, think similarly.
Mm,
Or in my instance, most everybody who's been hired, I will meet before we hire them,
mm. Yeah.
so that I can provide my insights in
Mm-hmm.
terms of why I feel, um, what I think we bring, and
Mm-hmm.
what our cultural uh, process is.
Mm. Yeah, I love that about the culture that you work in, right? Because there's a very specific feel that we want. At least there's a specific way I want to feel when I come into work, and a specific way I don't want to feel.
I completely agree with you.
So I love that. So I love that. So all right. So last couple questions are more just fun little things. So I call them my. Well, before I start that, I guess one more question I have is, in where do you see, or what direction do you have for yourself, or where do you see yourself in the next 3 years, or in the next 5 years?
Personally, um, I personally see having an opportunity to spend time with family more than I have in my past, certainly
Mm-hmm.
post COVID.
Mm-hmm.
It would be nice to spend time with family. I think,
Mm-hmm.
oddly enough, the older you get, and I always hate to admit that I am getting older, but but I am grateful. I am grateful that I'm getting older. But, I have to admit, I think the one thing that you realize the older you get is that the people in your life are your life,
Mm,
and that they have to be prioritized. And I've not always been good at that,
mhm,
because
mhm,
unfortunately or fortunately, I am a workaholic. And so, um, I, my extended family, which are my work family, is fabulous. But it
mhm.
also makes you stop and realize that you do need to spend time with your family.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so I, the next, from a personal perspective, that matters to me in the next several years, in really
Mhm,
focusing on, um, ensuring that I'm doing the right things for the people I care about and love.
mhm,
And then from a professional standpoint, is I have a lot of pride of ownership. I have a
mhm,
lot of pride in, helping my team at Suniva
mhm,
get this company to where it will be and
mhm,
can be. And
mhm.
that will bring tremendous joy.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. All right, so the last few questions, I call them my 5-minute glow ups. So I'm just going to run through a couple scenarios for you. So you have 5 minutes. What do you do to relax?
Oh, I meditate.
Oh, okay, nice. Is there a specific form of meditation you do? Or what do you do? Like, yeah, guide us through what you take yourself through if you have 5 minutes.
For me, I really, one, I just stop everything I'm doing and I breathe.
Mm-hmm.
And with every breath, I give myself the power to just be in the moment, because that
Mm-hmm.
is not my life. You know, I'm up and going at the O Dark 30 and work out, and
Uh-huh.
and then you hit work and it's nonstop. So for
Mm-hmm.
me, I give myself permission
Mm-hmm.
each day to take 5 to 10 minutes and just, internalize what's happened, breathe, relax, and center myself, because that, keeps me sane.
Yes, and I agree with that. So I love that.
Sane.
All right. Right? 5 minute centering exercises.
Yeah.
So you have 5 minutes. What do you do for a snack?
Oh, for a snack. Oh, you're gonna laugh. I just, my snacks are dry roasted, unsalted almonds.
Oh, that's good. Why
It's
would I laugh?
you don't have to do
It's
anything.
simple. Hey, almonds are great for you and your skin.
Absolutely, which is the reason why I eat them. I need all the help I can get.
All right, so you have 5 minutes. What do you do to get your heart rate up, or a quick, short little workout?
Ah, well, I've always been a runner,
Hmm.
and um, I haven't been able to do that as much.
Hmm.
So now, typically, what I'll do is I love to hike,
Hmm.
and in 5 minutes, that's not very easy. But I do have where I live when I am home. I have a really tremendous opportunity to power walk because we live on a pretty steep grade, and
Hmm.
that's also a great way for me to relax. Oddly enough, I don't know. Shows you my intensity. that's that's what I like to do. But I love to be outdoors.
Yeah, likewise, likewise. Okay, I love that. So my final question for you, or my second to final question is, so you've reached the end of final, and you've reached the end of your life. You've completed everything you set out to do. You've connected with all the people, your family, your friends, in all the ways that you would want to connect. You have the opportunity to leave one gift for people to find. What would that one gift be?
Hmm, that's a tough one. Um, you know, it's a treasured gift of mine. And it may sound silly, but it's actually a baseball cap.
Wow.
And the baseball cap on the front of it says, be good to people.
Mm, I love that. Yeah, I love that.
And I
Very
think
beautiful.
that's a message that I think that we forget.
Yeah, yeah. And if we all remembered that, how much different we would operate in the world.
I would hope, well,
Yes.
better. Um,
Yeah,
it's an interesting, it really is a tough one, isn't it? Because I think
yeah.
people, um, it isn't hard.
No.
You know, my
Yeah,
I still go back to things my mom used to say to me as a little girl, and she'd say, "You will always get more from people with honey.
yeah. That's true.
So just be nice."
That's true. My mom, she's Dominican, so whenever you were too nice, she would always say, in Spanish, she says, "Este huevo quiere sal." So it means this egg is wanting salt. So she's like, "Oh, why are you being super sweet?"
Something's wrong with you.
But that is true. I think,
Did you think you
we
did
if we
something,
bring if
did
we
something wrong?
yeah, maybe sometimes. So, final question.
Yes.
What does unleash your glow mean to you?
What? Say the question again.
What does unleash your glow mean to you?
It's internal for me,
Hmm.
and what it really is feeling that I've done the best I can every day, and that I've been nice to people and kind, and that
Hmm.
I live my life recognizing that not all of us, none of us are perfect. And
Hmm.
and if I feel like I've accomplished that at night, I can put my head on my pillow and know that I've done my part.
Hmm.
That,
Yeah.
that unleashes my glow.
I love that. Well, it's been an honor to spend the last hour with you. So I really appreciate your time and just for your storytelling, your lessons, and just being here present with us. So thank you.
Truly my pleasure. Thank you for your time. And it really has been a delightful hour.
All right, guys. So that's a wrap to today's episode. I can't wait for you guys to listen to it live. If you have any questions or thoughts about it, definitely let us know. Head over to social media. We're on Facebook and Instagram at the Glow Collective _. You can visit our website as well. And if you have any questions, definitely let us know. If you have questions that you want me to ask or answer, I'm happy to do that in the upcoming podcasts. And if you loved this episode, make sure to subscribe, rate, and review. And we always love hearing from you. So have a beautiful day.